Welcome back to the Move with Purpose podcast, and today I am joined by CJ Lloyd Webley, multi-award winning writer and social entrepreneur who wears so many different hats that span across business, arts, and so much more. Siege, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I love the siege. I love the siege. See, that's how you know you're a veteran. If you've been there from a while, you will know.
We go way back, that's why, so I get to call you Siege.
No, I got a funny story about you, actually. I've told you this. Yeah. So remember when we went to the play scheme at Scotland Green?
And your brother was like
my brother was the guy, yeah. You thought I was a girl?
Did I?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I had camera. I was quite chubby.
Yeah.
You thought, you said to my brother, is that your sister? He's like, that's my brother, what are you talking about? But nah, just had to remind you of that.
Only me to be so forward and fast.
Nah, I probably did look like a girl, to be fair at the time.
There's so many different facets in which we've managed to cross paths, which is really inspiring but cool. Obviously, we went to school together. You a couple of years. Oh, yeah, we went to Walmart. You went to Walmart, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we went to school together. I remember you was always in the plays.
Yeah.
Like the face of all the plays. So from then I knew you were into arts.
Yeah.
And then in business, we've crossed over and we just seemed to cross paths.
Because it was you and Ellis, wasn't it?
Yeah, that did the dance. Take me back, Siege, to a time in your childhood where you fell in love with the arts.
Yeah, so I tell this story. Anyone that's kind of watched my journey will know this story. But I remember I was in school and obviously grew up on the Lindhurst estate. Didn't have much access to resource or anything like that. So we were always very creative, setting up dens, all kinds of madness we got up to on there. And so when I got to school, obviously that energy has to go somewhere. So there were times where I was a bit chatty in the class. Never naughty, but just talkative and whatnot. I remember there was one year, I think we were in a year 5 or 6, and there was this whole school class assembly. Now, every year group had to do their own assembly. All the other year groups are doing it on fun stuff like popular culture, Beyonce, Formula One, this, that, and the other. And then our class is doing it about World War II. Okay. So I'm like, that don't really sit right with me, that's dry. Everybody else is dancing, doing fun stuff. We're up there talking about, well, in 1945 Hitler was, and we're just killing the energy. So anyway, I remember we had this assembly. The assembly is about to wrap up now. So them ones where you have the piece of paper and you step forward and you do your line and you step back. So we're all stood in a line, and I remember we were about to go out they were about to say we're going to go out to break time, and my friend, I said to my friend next to me, and I feel like that was dead, nobody's smiling, nobody's enjoying the energy right now, we need to do something. And I said to her, what if I go out there and do Michael Jackson? She was like, what do you mean go out there and do Michael Jackson?
Unscripted?
Yeah, unscripted. I went off. So I said to her, the only way I'm going to do it is if you are backing me and like cheering me on and what. And she was like, yeah, 100%. Like, she nudged her friend, was like, CJ's going to go out there and do Michael Jackson. She's like, what? He's going to go out and do Michael Jackson. Now, this is when Michael...
in World War II?
Yeah, it was unreal. It was... So you can think what that would actually be, but this was when Michael Jackson was cool, what I mean? None of the allegations, none of that. I'm showing my age now, but this was before then. So anyway, I've jumped out and I've gone, does anybody like Michael Jackson up in here? And I'm moonwalking up and down the front of the stage, and my head teacher's just red in the face, but all the other teachers
are loving it.
Yeah, loving it. Like, well, I'm not loving it, but they're laughing because they're like embarrassed for my teacher, but I'm not seeing it as that. I'm seeing it as like the kids are laughing, the teachers are laughing. Anyway, nobody really says anything. It's just like my teacher must have come out, okay then, right, we're going to go to break. I go back to my classroom. We were supposed to be going out to break time. She's like, right, everybody pack, get your water or whatever, go out to break. And then she's like, not you, CJ, you're going to stay right there. I'm like, hold on, like, where's this energy coming from? You didn't have that energy out there. I've just saved your show. Because as far as I'm concerned, everybody was bored. I've gone up there, entertained you, now you as a teacher, you would know, as a former teacher, you would know, obviously, that you'd see that as disrespect, but for me, sure. I just thought I was helping. So anyway, she shouts at me, and then to cut a long story short, the next day I get back to school and she sees me coming towards the gate. Now I think, she's gonna go at me again, man. I can't, you've already done it yesterday, you kept me in from break or whatever. Anyway, she's like, "Oh, CJ, good morning. Just the person I wanted to see." I'm like,
Okay,
that's
tune's changed.
that's a different tune.
Yeah.
She's like, "Look, I want to talk to you about something. We've got this." So she didn't mention anything about what happened the day before. She's just like, "We've got this play, Oliver Twist. We want you to audition for it."
Okay.
And she's like, yeah, come at break time, do your audition and whatnot. So anyway, I auditioned. I didn't get the main role, so I was kind of vexed because I'm like, you asked me, you came to me, you didn't even give me a main role, you give me some side thing. She's like, no, like the role you're doing, you're going to have creativity, you're going to be able to, I was playing my school head teacher, so it wasn't really a real character, but it was something where I could go and express myself. And
go off script
and improvise. And so from that moment, when that show did come around, I remember I was improvising, I was doing dances and whatever, and it made sense to the context of the piece. And so people were laughing, and they weren't laughing. I realized there was a difference between laughing at and laughing with.
Right.
Because when I was in that moment and I did Michael Jackson or whatever, when I was looking back, my friends weren't backing me.
Okay, they were laughing at you.
Yeah, they were laughing at me, like, because they knew I was going to get in trouble. Whereas this time, I got, parents to this day still come up to me. I was probably like 10 years old and they're still coming up to me like, "Oh, I remember when you did Mr. Williams in the school play."
Yeah.
So it made me realize that actually when talent is nurtured and harnessed in the right way, it can propel you forward and help to change your mindset. So that was probably the first moment where I realized, maybe this is something that I could do. And, it wasn't necessarily something I thought would be my career as such, because I wasn't pushed into it in that regard. But that was the moment, I would say, that really defined, where I was going to go.
And then how do you harness that? Like, do your parents then find like drama school for you? Like, what's the next step?
So, you know what it is? This is my gripe now, because back then, like, and even now, the clubs, drama academies, whatever, they're really expensive. Like, fortunately, I did manage to get into National Youth Theatre and Youth Music Theatre, but they were really expensive. So school, Wilmot, shout out to them, because they did give me like a bursary for that.
Nice. You got bursaries, bro?
Yeah.
Hold on a second. We have to stay on that point.
They knew the pattern.
We have to stay on that point, because I was in that dance studio till all hours and I didn't see no bursary.
They knew the pattern. They saw the pattern. Nah. But to be fair, maybe they locked it off by then, because I think, remember, I was probably the first one who was really
for sure
doing the drama thing. And probably was one of the first ones to go to National Youth Theatre from the school. So I think maybe that was a thing they did at that time, and then they locked it off maybe a few years after. But
so what did that look like? They paid part of your tuition fees?
Yeah. So I think the fees were about £1,000. They probably paid like 600 or something.
No way.
Yeah. So I had to audition for those things, though I didn't really have any formal training and stuff like that. But when I went into those rooms, I was like, there was the additional pressure then, though, because of course, you get into the room, people are like formally trained. I remember I had to sing one audition, and just like, I don't know if you've been to any of these things where you would know with a dance thing, but dance is your thing. Like, singing wasn't my thing. So imagine you got all these trained singers
killing it.
And I'm just, they're like, you're gonna I remember the pianist, he'd just play like part of the song, and they'd be like, "Repeat after me." I'm like, I can't hit them notes. So I just went in there with a baritone, like
What was your bag? Acting?
Okay. So it was acting back then, and it's funny because obviously I'm more into the writing now, but I always had an affinity for writing, but nobody really guided me into it.
Okay.
I remember there was a teacher at John Wilmot that marked me down because she thought I'd plagiarized it. She thought I'd plagiarized my creative writing. And I remember my mum, obviously being a teacher, went and asked her teacher friends, "What do you think of this piece?" And they were like giving it a high grade. And then obviously she had the chat with the school, with this teacher, and the teacher was like, it just came across as plagiarized to me. So it's ironic now that this is actually what I do for a living.
Way.
So it just shows sometimes they're not going to see that, they won't see the talent, in you or nurture it. Hopefully it's different now, but back then definitely just writing was not, I didn't really get pushed into that.
And how did the two marry and align? So obviously you were more into the acting. When did it start to cross over into writing, would you say?
Yeah, it was when I went to uni. So I studied theatre at uni at Warwick, and this was probably the first period of time where I started to understand rejection.
Okay.
Because remember, prior to then, I didn't have any training or anything like that, but I was getting into things. I was, as you said, in school, I was always
the face of all the players.
I was always in it. So I hadn't really experienced that rejection as such, as like, you're not always going to be in it.
Okay.
Like, sometimes you might get a side character or whatever, you might not be cast. And so I noticed there was a pattern at uni though. So I got into a few things in my first year, and then after that I was auditioning for things and I just wasn't getting in. I'm like, hold on, that's like 4 or 5 auditions I've been to. And so these are like student productions. At the time it feels
like a big thing.
big thing. But I was like 4, 5, 6 rejections. I'm like, hold on, what's going on here? So I'm like, you know what? Something ain't right. And then I started to notice like the productions that were going on, I wasn't really interested in, or it didn't really speak to who I was, or the stories that really resonated with me. So then I was like, there was a module that came up on my course about playwriting, and so on that course, I don't even think I did that well on the actual course, because I probably didn't stick to the brief. But I came up with this idea, and I pitched it to essentially some other people that were interested in acting, and there were loads of people from like my cultural background, lots of ethnic minorities that were like, oh yeah, like this is a piece that really speaks to us. And that was probably the first moment when I realized sometimes you don't always need to be front and center. Sometimes actually by being behind the scenes, being the person who's writing, directing, producing, you can actually create more opportunities for others as well as yourself. So I think when you're an actor, you're the person obviously front and center. It's about you and how you deliver the role. But when you are in that position of being the writer, the person who kind of crafts the story and the vision of the piece, you know, you can bring on board multiple actors, directors, movement directors, sound designers. Like you're able to have more creative control. And so I started to value that process differently, and it was a tough transition at times, because, you know, of course, people were very used to seeing me on stage. So now I'm getting things on, and they're like, oh, were you in it? And I'm
we're
like,
gonna see you.
Yeah, we're gonna see you. And it's like, well, you'll see my name like written by, but you won't always see me on the stage, and people have to get used to that. Like sometimes it's not about you as an actor. You're a vehicle to tell the story. It's not about you, you know, and some actors struggle with that. You know, they're in a rehearsal room, they're trying to have opinions and things like that. It's not about you, you're just the vehicle. Like you can have a conversation at the side afterwards, but don't get too vocal in that process, because it's about what the writer wants to say and what the director, how the director is going to help realize that vision. So a lot of people, they go into acting because they fall into it similar to I did, and they don't know about the other sides of the industry,
the different roles that they can get involved in.
But if you want more control, then you sometimes have to step away from the limelight a little bit.
Wow, love that.
But then when you get to a certain point, you'll be able to, you know, perform in it as well.
There's a nice parallel between what you just mentioned and a similar journey with me and dance, because I've always loved to dance and always been, like you said, have that moment to be front and center. But there came a time when I realized I actually didn't want to be on stage anymore, because being on stage was like you said, carrying out somebody else's vision of a piece, or just taking steps from the choreographer, and I just felt very purposeless in doing so. So the birthing of Eloquent was really me stepping back and going, I want to give these opportunities for dance artists to have paid positions, to be on stage, but we get to tell the stories. How important is it for you to be able to control the narrative?
Yeah, it's important for any artist to be able to to convey their own vision. And I was going to say on the point about being on stage. So I'm a little bit more introverted. Obviously, I have to act up to the camera a little bit, otherwise it's going to be dry. People watching this, but so when I was on stage, like I'd be on there and I'd be really giving it my all, but then I get off the stage and I'm exhausted. I just want to go home.
Really?
Yeah, I don't want to talk to anyone. People
Okay.
come in, oh, that was amazing. Yeah, I just want to go home.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I don't like. Thank you. Glad you enjoyed it. I'm going home.
So you didn't enjoy the limelight, so to speak.
No,
Right.
I didn't. And like, yeah, I'm still learning about myself. I think we're continually, we go through that process of like understanding who we are, and as we get older, we change our thoughts and our mindset changes. And so, but one thing I knew from early was that limelight I just don't really like. But people sometimes put me there because I'm good when I'm under pressure. As such, I can remain composed and whatever. But you see me, people see me on social media doing videos and stuff, and then they'll see me on the train and they'll be like, "Is this the same person?" Like,
he's not chatting to me.
like I'm here, and I wish you well, but like I'm chilling, like I'm traveling. But yeah, conveying, to be able to control your narrative is so important, and that's why I believe so many of us as creatives fall into entrepreneurship, because we're sick and tired of having these ideas and things that we want to do, and we can't do it because you've said we can't get the funds, or there's no space, or there's no availability. And it's like, but we are creative people, so it's not like we're choosing to be this way, it's just who we are. So we have to get to a position where, financially we're a little bit more astute and we're able to control the way in which things can move, because when you don't have control over things, that's when you start taking to Twitter and you just vex, because you feel constrained. So I've just learned that it's not about being a control freak, but it's about saying, right, I'm not sure about where that's going, so I'd rather not, like, I'll leave that to you, and I'm going to do it this way. And whoever feels like this aligns with them, they can join this way.
Right.
Like within any of my pieces, you're not going to find any profanity. One of the reasons I come out of acting as well is because I remember I was in a room with one director. I was doing a Shakespeare piece. Now I just got into a relationship at the time, and the director was in the rehearsal room. He's like, so at this point now, you're just gonna be a prolonged kiss with this person. And I'm like, I don't really want to. And it was nothing personal to that person, but I'm like, hold on, my nan's gonna be coming and watching this. And then where do I draw the line? Like, I could be kissing, and then what does that turn into? Then what if I'm in a film and they're asking me to do other? Now, that's why I say, as an actor, you're the vehicle. So if the directors asked me to do that, I'm supposed to do it.
What did you do?
I went and told him I wasn't going to do it. And then that's the conversation he had with me. Well, that's how I kind of see it going. And I said, well, that wasn't discussed with me before, so I'm not comfortable. Now, it's not to say you don't have a voice in the room, but it is the director's vision. So if they don't value you as much as you probably think they do, then it's not always that they're going to compromise their own vision.
Right.
So if I came to him, fortunately, it was probably too late in the rehearsal process to cast someone else.
Swap
you know what I mean? Exactly.
So it's like, okay,
so
cool.
Like, I'll just have to work with this now. So we ended up doing a long embrace instead of a kiss. But for me, that's how I knew I wasn't necessarily right for that role, because there's gonna be lots of those moments, because there's lots of things I'm not comfortable with. And there's a thing about people say that with being an actor, you have to be willing to push past those boundaries, and you almost have to relinquish some of your morals. I'm looking at there's a film coming out recently, The Challengers, I think it is, with Zendaya, and I'm sure she's with Tom Holland, but in that film she's supposed to be doing all kind of madness with two guys and this, that, and other. And I'm thinking, yo, how's Tom feeling about that? But they operate on a different moral compass.
For sure.
But for me, I knew that I had to step away from the limelight, because sometimes the limelight puts you into certain positions, and then before you know it, you are compromising certain things.
And you just weren't willing to compromise your core values.
No, couldn't do it. I couldn't be in a position where I was condoning certain things.
Okay.
And I don't, I'm quite unusual in that I don't create a distinction between reality and performance. Like, I see it as the same. Like, you are doing that.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
You can try and paint it however you want to paint it, but you're doing a sex scene, you're doing that. You're kissing him, you're doing that. So own that. If that's your, everyone has a different moral grounding for what they think is right. But for me, my moral grounding is quite, I'm quite strong on a lot of things. So, in school, you don't really get asked to do those things. But as you get further and further in the industry, the more boundaries people are trying to push, the requests are going to get more and more. So you have to really know yourself before you get into that that kind of industry.
What would you say your 4 core values or principles are that you kind of live by?
That's a really good question. I would say transparency, honesty, humility, and truth. I mean, they all kind of intertwine, I think. But the reason I say humility is because when the accolades start to come, that's when people care. But it's like, but you didn't see me when I was running around doing Sorrel Park, getting £25. Yeah. Like, when I'm able to chase up parents for £3 after the session because you're not paying.
I hear it.
So you weren't there then. So now you see the accolades come in and whatnot. Now you want to care. So for me, it's like humility comes in where you can appreciate how far you've come, but you don't lose sight of where you've come from.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? So that's why I would say humility is important. I'm not thinking you're better than people just because you have a difference of opinion to them. And then transparency, because when you get into certain environments, people will also almost like assume that you think the same as them.
Okay.
Or, we've talked about it before in terms of like these award ceremonies and stuff, and they're seeing us like a side thing as opposed to, like, we're serious artists, we're serious creatives, like, respect us the same way that you respect your other counterparts. And so for me, it's like being willing to have those conversations, because a lot of people will say it behind the scenes, but you have to be willing to say it to the people. Now, I'm not the kind of person that always goes on social media and is going to be inflammatory. There's lots of people that say to me, with the Black Pounds Project stuff that you're doing, you could say so much more, and you could be like a spokesperson for the community, a bit more vocal. I'm like, or I could just get a commission and put on a play, and then people can come to that,
right? And
then they'll see how I think, and or we can have a sit down and have a conversation one-to-one.
So you'd rather it be done in the doing than the talking.
Exactly. There's people who are great orators, and they are able to articulate their view. But for me, I'm not the kind of person that wants to be tripped up, because once you get tripped up, it's like all credibility can be lost in one fell swoop. So you could put me on Good Morning Britain and whatever, and shout out True, because he goes on there and he talks his thing. But you put me on there in the same thing, I'm probably going to be like, I don't know if
say the wrong thing.
Yeah, I'll say the wrong thing, and my whole thing is not credible anymore. So let me just know my lane.
And we work years at building reputations that are credible and based on our core values, for it to be lost in the moment, right?
Exactly.
You know what's interesting though? I had a young person come up to me recently and was like, I've quit my job and I'm quitting this because I just want to work for myself, and I know that I want to have this freedom, man, and I'm not employable, and I just don't want to be answerable to a boss. And I said, okay, cool. And she was like, I just want to design my own schedule, wake up and work for myself. And I mentioned a critical point to her, and I was like, okay, cool. So yeah, as an entrepreneur, you don't have a boss, but you do know you're accountable to more people than you probably were when you were employed. And she's like, huh? Yeah. Like, just because you're an entrepreneur doesn't mean you lose accountability. If you're going to set up a company, you need a board. You're going to be accountable to that board. Then there's HMRC that are going to be tapping your shoulder, asking for tax. Let's not forget about that. Like, this idea that people create of this freedom of entrepreneurship, we're still accountable, right?
Yeah. And it's like a ladder, isn't it? I don't know do you know about the entrepreneurial ladder? Have you heard about it before?
I hope so.
Yeah. yeah. I mean, it's just like, so it starts at the employee level, then you go to being a manager in that, and then you go to being like a director, then you go to being an owner of a company. So when you start a business, you are all of those things.
Yeah.
So you don't just arrive and you're just at that manager level. No, you're on the ground, you're working, you're an employee, and that's still going to be the case as long as you need funding or you need some, revenue to be coming into the business. Once you get that flow and it's like every month, oh, this is coming in, that's coming in. If you're a genuine entrepreneur, you want that to continually increase because you know that you'll be able to do more the more funds come in. There isn't there's this like dream, this fallacy that a lot of young people have, and I speak to the Light Post guys about it as well. Get a job, because realistically,
do both.
Yeah, do both. Do the job, then go part time. Whilst you're doing the part time, start investing a little bit into the craft.
Absolutely.
And understanding more about what it is that you want to do, how you're going to monetize it, because people think and that you don't want to knock the dream and the
For
hustle.
Sure.
But you need to it's about making them understand, like, business is about the bottom line. And if there's not really a way at the moment that you've proven that the funds are going to come in, you're going to end up depressed because nothing's coming in. And you've also got to help people to buy into the vision. And it's easier to help people buy into the vision if there's already some kind of revenue coming in.
And some resource.
Yeah, some resource. And I just think there's a lot of education needed for young people that do want to venture into entrepreneurship, because it's not just as easy as quitting your job and just starting up your own thing. And although it seems nice scheduling your own calendar and whatnot, it is a nice thing, but it takes time before that even feels nice. It's
For
like
sure.
you're not waking up.
It's not enjoyable from the jump.
No, because you're not even thinking about schedule. You're just thinking this needs doing, that needs doing, that needs doing. So you haven't even got time to think, right, what do I want out of this? It's just survival mode.
Yeah.
So we have to, as soon as you can get out of that survival mode, then you can start planning. But there's going to be a lot of like sleepless nights. People aren't going to buy into the vision as much as you do. They're not going to care as much as you do. So you have to be very intrinsically motivated as well.
What would you say are the biggest challenges for you being an entrepreneur at the moment?
At the moment, I would say my staff not turning up. Because realistically, the staff don't turn up.
Okay.
And then
what does that look like? Turn up to work?
So let's say let's put it to the gift shop. So there's two things. So this is all down to resource, and we've talked about this. I've got a lot of part-time staff. So I've got the gift shop in town, and then there's also like members meetings and stuff that go on. And this is for the Black Pounds project I'm talking about. So the gift shop it needs staffing. If my staff member says in the morning, I'm not feeling well, that has a knock-on effect, because I do other stuff. So I could be at the Mac, working on my show, or I could be doing some consultancy work. But I'm still running this business. So for me, it's like that. If they don't turn up, then I have to ask another staff member if they can like help facilitate getting another staff member. And then if it doesn't open up, then there's a knock-on effect. Customers coming to the door, messaging on links on Instagram. Oh, I'm at the shop. Is it open? This is why black businesses don't succeed.
Because you closed and you said you was going to be open.
And there was this video of a lady. She was like, I don't know I actually put it on my page because
Yeah.
I thought, you know, I'm going to use this. She was like, I don't know who's running this shop, but I don't know how they think it's going to succeed if they're not opening at 9 o'clock. It needs to be opening at 9 o'clock in
On
the
the
morning.
dot.
This is Britain. This ain't no Jamaica. This ain't no... I'm thinking...
Outside your shop?
Yeah, outside my shop. So I was like,
Okay.
you know, I'm going to just use that as marketing.
Yeah, for sure.
So I used it. And then I just explained, I said, look, we're a social enterprise.
Yeah.
We're still building. We've done well to get to this point. You know, let's not undermine that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We don't have these kind of things in the city centre, so let's not undermine that. But you know, thank you for your passion and the fact you do want it.
I love that.
So it's just the knock-on effect of resource, and I think also on that point of you're the young person wanting to set up a business. You realize when you start to make more money in the business, a lot of that money then goes out because you're now employing people.
You need the team, yeah.
You need the team, and you think you can do it all on your own, but you can't. You can't answer the phones and be trying to write bids and be trying to manage your social media and your marketing. And you need a team, and
Absolutely.
that's the realization that I came to. Because when I was doing my previous business, Sorrel Park, when I was teaching creative writing to the disadvantaged students in school, I was doing that pretty much all myself. So
Okay.
I was doing the marketing. I was doing the, you know, I had my little suitcase with the pens and the paper and whatnot.
You was employed at your business. You was employed at your business.
Yeah.
I hear it.
But then it wasn't really a business, was it? Because if the demand's not there, the demand was there in the sense of I knew what schools I was going into on which day, but it wasn't to the point where I couldn't manage it.
For sure.
But that's because there wasn't as much funds there wasn't much monetary gain from it. So it was very much like this. It wasn't in a growth phase. And when you get to that growth phase, that's when you need to put more investment into it. People. So, you know, you can tick along doing that kind of thing, but if you want a certain quality of life and inspiration, then
people are the most important factor to any business for me. Like, I have really learned, and I've made some terrible hiring decisions, but also some really great hiring decisions in people that I can trust to carry the vision forward. But we are literally just vision carriers. We're forerunners of this thing. Like you said, you can't be in every single department. So finding great people is really what we're in this thing to do. The more great people we find, not the quicker, but the more efficient it is to carry out our vision of what we have for entrepreneurship. But it's so hard to find good people.
Yeah.
It's so hard.
I think for me as well, like I'm kind of becoming more aware of my strengths and weaknesses. I'm very much a big picture person.
Yeah.
When it comes to the minor details.
Yeah.
So I remember last month we were at the gift shop and I was like, this looks, you know, it looks dated now. We need to do something. It's Easter's coming. When was Easter? Was that
April,
April,
yeah.
So I was like, something's needs to change. So I was like, I remember my wife bought these little chickens in and little eggs and stuff. I'm like, right, we need to make this look
like Easter.
Yeah, like Easter. So I'm like, I'm taking all the stuff off the shelves and whatever, and I'm like, right, I'm gonna put that there and this, that. And I'm stepping back, I'm like, that looks worse than when
what it did before. Yeah.
And then I remember Matthias came in. So Matthias works on a Friday. He came in and he was like, and then he moved things around, and I was like, how did you do that?
Yeah.
But that's more of his gift. He's
For
more
sure.
of like the intricate detail.
Yeah.
I'm more of like the bigger picture. I'll get us the shop.
Yeah.
Everybody else needs to do their bit and make the shop look nice.
Absolutely.
So before, I would be at a point where I'd try and do everything, even if it's not my strength. Like I can do it a bit. Like it wouldn't look terrible, but it just doesn't look uniform.
Yes.
So I've had to learn to let go as well.
How important is that? And sometimes we get in our own way. So I've only recently said to my team, all the parts that I'm terrible at, get me as far away from it as possible, because I will mash up this shit.
What would you say is your weakness?
So I shouldn't be hiring anybody. Point blank. I shouldn't be hiring anybody, because some of the people I've taken on have been so questionable from the jump, and I've had other people on the board going, "Man, are you sure?" And I'm putting the case across. They should have just shut me down.
I've been there, emotion.
Emotion. Wanted to give people opportunities.
I get on with that person outside, and then you bring them in, they don't deliver.
Get me out the way of that, because I just can't see. I can see potential, but I don't think I'm great at knowing how to nurture it, if that makes sense. So the hiring process, get me far away from. Operations, terrible at. Shouldn't be anywhere near it. Minor details, no.
But you know what? It's funny because I'm really good at operations.
Really?
Yeah, operate actually
systems
as I mentioned, systems and processes. That's what I do this for high net worth clients.
No way.
But can I explain to people what I'm actually doing and why they need to follow it? Not really, because that's a smaller detail.
Yeah.
So I'm good at implementing the stuff.
Yeah.
But then it's like, okay, now I need to explain to them why we're doing it in this way and how to do it. I just put the thing in and say, right, this is how it needs to work. And then people are like, oh, well, how do I do that? It's like, just do it.
Just get it. Why don't you get it? Yeah.
And so, yeah, I've had, exactly what you're saying, man. You just got to figure out what you can do and what's not really
And do you know what? I realised that the more I tried to be everywhere was the more I was actually a detriment to the growth of the business as well. I very much understand that I am the visionary. I'm about growth and looking at the next opportunity. So I'll probably, for example, we've recently got capital investment to renovate our space. So I was the one that put in the bid, wrote the bid, got it, secured it. You see, now it's secured. I don't want anything to do with the whole project. I don't want to sit in any architect meetings. I don't want to talk to anybody about, I just want to see it finished. So I've realised I'm a starter, not a finisher. What would you say you are?
Wow, that's a very good point. But also, congratulations, because that is small feat. You know what I mean? We can't gloss over that. That's amazing. And this space, even as it is inspirational. I believe, am I a starter or a finisher? I don't even know. I don't even feel like I finish anything. I feel like it's just everything's just
okay.
Everything's just. I think I'm definitely an innovator in that I can see opportunities everywhere, but then I'll and this is why my wife is really good, because she just tells me right, just don't start that yet.
Right.
Because
park it.
Yeah, park that, because for me, I'm always wanting to start new things. But I need to follow through on the things that I'm doing currently. So.
Do you have a process for deciding what to start and what to park?
It's usually to do with time.
Okay.
So I'll look at my schedule. So now I shouldn't even be looking at anything, because it's I need to get the funding so that I can employ staff to work full time in the shop and BPP. Also, I'm working with different clients, and then obviously I'm now working on this theatre project at the Mac. So really, I shouldn't be trying to start anything else. Okay. But there's things I want to start. There's things I want to start. So I don't know how I decipher. That's why I think she's important, because she just helps me decipher what I should really be doing. And I know this is a controversial thing, but I feel like women like to hear solutions rather than problems. Right. So I'll come to her and say, I'm having a problem with this, and this, and this. And it's like, what do you want to do? And I'm like, well, I want to do everything. Well, you can't do everything. So which one of these is? So she's very matter of fact with that. Yeah.
So how would you say your marriage has been pivotal and valuable in you making key life decisions?
Yeah. So I would say, for example, when I was running Sorrel Park Theatrical, I was going around to these schools and had no real teaching experience. I did a little bit at King Solomon before you started. Yeah. And I didn't know the buzzwords or anything like that. So my wife, she was telling me what to say in these meetings with the head teachers. So as I say, I was going in there and I was like, yeah, so obviously there's a lot of children struggling with their, social and emotional needs right now. So perhaps writing would help them. And of course, I specialise in working with special educational needs children, those with autism.
Like you there guessing.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
I had absolutely no idea. I was confident in my ability,
Okay.
but I didn't really know
Yeah.
what I was doing. I knew what I didn't know why I was doing certain things, but I was just naturally good at working around it. So I'd get into the rooms and then, I'd be trying to make writing exciting for the kids, and trying. My whole job was the program was called Write is Right, and it was just about getting kids to put words on the page. Because one thing the schools were telling me was that they just were struggling, particularly with their black boys, with getting them to actually write something on the paper. So for me, I was trying to help instill a positive relationship with the written word. Now, obviously, at this point, I actually had plays on in London and stuff like that. So when I was coming back, and this is the thing about the industry, people think just because someone's got stuff on, or they've had a big break or something, that means stability, but it doesn't. And so you still have to be grafting, even though certain things might have happened or been good, or there might have been accolades. So obviously I'm going into these schools now, they don't really know that I kind of need this work. They're like, oh, we've got this amazing playwright, he's coming in to do workshops. And obviously I was running with that. But what Amelia helped me with was like just to not worry about the financial side of things, because obviously as a man, we've just got married. This was just before COVID. So imagine COVID, we never even thought that would be a real thing. But before then, so I'm trying to work towards this thing, and she's just like, don't worry about the financial stuff, just like pursue your passion and you utilize the skills that you have. So I would say in that sense, she was just very supportive. But I think most importantly, she could see the potential in me before I could see it in myself. And so we weren't the kind of people that got married and like I was automatically the breadwinner or whatever. She was holding down the full-time job, and I was trying to make my thing work. But I always said, if this doesn't work, I don't mind just going back and doing what I have to do. Because at the end of the day, money have to make, bills have to be paid, food has to be put on the table. So I'm not really a kind of person that thinks if you've got obligations, then you should just be running around trying to pursue your dreams at that time. I think you have to make sure that you're willing to do what you have to do. And fortunately, things did start to work out.
Love that.
And then now we're living to tell the tale on the other side, where things are going well.
How long have you been married now?
Coming up to 5 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
What key principles have you learned in the last 5 years?
It's going to sound cliche, but communication. So I think there's a wiring difference with men and women.
You think?
Yeah, well, I know there's a difference, because so I was having this conversation. I was at like this retreat, this Christian retreat, 3 weeks ago, and we were talking about like when a man's going through, when man has got some kind of stress or pressure going on. So I could be on the laptop and something's come in, prior to that, I've probably said to my wife, oh, we're going to go out for food. So it's 8 o'clock now. We said we're going to go out for food at 8 o'clock. So this thing's just come in, business related, on my laptop. It's 8 o'clock. I've got to get this done. In my mind, got to get this done.
Before you go for food.
Before we go for food. Now, she's going to come up the stairs like, oh, is everything, what's going on? I thought we were going out for food. Now, as a man, this is something important. I want to get this done. I want to
wrap it up.
I want to wrap this up. But I don't want you to get the energy that's directed for this. So my natural inclination would be to just not say anything. That would be my natural thing. You're not going to communicate everything you're just thinking. No, I'd just be like, I've got to get this done. Now, in her mind, it's like, well, I thought we were going out at 8 o'clock. I'm like, you can see I'm doing something, like, work with me. Do you know what I mean? But I'm not communicating that. I'm just shutting down. So I've had to learn, actually, even in that moment, there has to be some cue to her to say, look, I have to say to her the things that are going on in my head.
For sure.
So even if I'm not sure on the timing that this is going to finish, I have to communicate that. Let me just say, look, I'm not sure when this is going to be finished. I know that we agreed we were going to go at 8:00. I'm still happy to go out, but I do really need to get this sorted because of X, Y, and Z. I feel when you don't communicate the things that are going on in your head, that's when there's like a tension and a conflict, because then it's like she won't feel valued in that moment. So there were lots of like reoccurring things, like the same thing would just keep happening until I had to be reflective and say, I need to, when I've cooled down, because one of the things she's good at is like, she doesn't really address things in that moment. Okay. She'll like leave it.
Your wife is very honourable.
She's good, man. Very, very patient. Very patient.
Because I'm going off in the moment.
It's hard. But it's the wiring thing.
Yeah.
So, she doesn't go off. She'll be like, all right, cool.
Noted.
Noted. And then when I'm in a better mood, then it's like, oh, okay, well,
let me hit you with this.
So let me hit you with this. So but then, the thing about relationships is like, no relationship is the same.
For sure.
No relationship is the same. The things I can get away with in my relationship, I wouldn't tell other men to do because it might not work.
Absolutely.
Because you're with a different person. So you have to understand your person. And like for me, one of the things that we spoke with, so we had a lot of marriage counselling before we got married. So a lot of
pivotal and important is that?
Come on. And for us, we didn't, like a lot of the things that could have potentially become arguments, like things we would argue about, we dealt with early. So we were arguing about them in counselling. So we were like on flames in counselling. So when we got into marriage, it's like, oh, hold on, you're doing the thing that we already spoke about. So let's not do that, because that's the thing that affects me, and that goes vice versa. So for me, it's more tone of voice and raising your voice. Those are literally the triggers for me, because I'm a calm guy. So if you see me raising my voice, something's going wrong. You know what I mean? Something's gone wrong. So
do you still value having marriage counselling even now? Or was it just something that was before marriage?
Informally, conversations with couples that you respect, speaking openly about things that have happened or that you're going through, but only with couples that you respect and trust.
Absolutely.
Or people that you respect and trust, because someone, you never know. Wrong person, try and mash up what you got.
That trust is so important, and it's interesting. And I'm glad you said informally as well, because we had marriage counselling from two different couples that we obviously love and respect, and they've still kind of kept that role. So when I need to sound off about everything Ohm's not doing, I'm like, right, we're going to see A, B, and C. And he's like, oh, yeah, cool. Any reason? I'm like, no, we're just going there to chill. Moment I get there, I'm like, right, guys, this is what he's been up to. But do you know what? How important is it to have that accountability?
Yeah, I was going to say as well, just touching on that, friendships are so important. Now, you'll have your girlfriends, he'll have his guy friends. It's so important for your girlfriends to love and respect him. Because they can't just be taking your side, and vice versa. My man them can't be like, nah, I can't take her, I don't know why she did. It's like, hold on, that's my wife. So you have
that
to
be
so I can come with them, and I need them to be able to flip it on its head and say, well, why did you do that? And then sometimes I reflect, I'm like, yeah, man, I did do that. I shouldn't have done that.
And they should be able to draw you out as well. When you explain a story and they're like, nah, man, you need to go and apologise. You was wrong for that.
That's it. You can't be having it one-sided, because what happens is then they start resenting your missus. And then your missus is coming around and they don't want her around because they're just getting the negative. But also you got to balance that out. Tell them the things that she's doing that are really good, or just don't really talk negative to your friends anyway.
For sure. And I found the same with family as well, because it's so easy for them to jump on side. Said me and Ohm have like an unspoken rule, like when we're going through, it just stays here. Like, there's no offloading to any moms, any parents, any dads, because the moment it's good again, you've then got to wait for your mom to get good again. No one wants to wait for that drama. So it's one of my like tips I always give to like couples, like, yo, it's you two in this thing. Leave the in-laws where the in-laws need to be.
Let it be love wherever you go,
for
whichever
sure.
side, because that can get sticky. So
what would you say is next for CJ?
What's next for me is more creative projects, more writing. I want to do more traveling, get more inspiration, and for my business initiatives to be sustainable.
I like that word.
It's sustainable. Like, I want to be able to take that time off and I'll be like, look, you guys need to sort that because, you know, I've employed you to do it. So you need to figure out what you're going to do. And for me to just be taking on more of that founder CEO role where I can just go around, go to the dinners and talk to people and just have
nice
fun.
Parts.
And, the nice parts.
Lol.
You know, not the day-to-day dealing with complaints and, you know. So for me, next is just more creativity, more life. I think, you know, I've worked hard over particularly these past 4 or 5 years of just grafted. So I just want to see the fruits of that labour now.
To which you should, right? I always ask my guests to finish by giving our audience a nugget of wisdom. It could be about anything. Just leaving them with something to inspire them.
Somebody said this to me recently. Don't put a wishbone where a backbone should be.
Wow.
So make sure you've got your stuff sorted. Don't be trying to think about, oh, I need to do this and I want to do that. No, what needs to get done? Don't try and wish it away. You need to put some solid foundations in place to ensure that you can progress. You know, so if it is like that young lady wanted to start up a business, don't come to Auntie Romanah looking for her to tell you exactly what to do. Come with something tangible. And then we can look at the next steps. So don't put a wishbone where a backbone should be.
Siege, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Really loved having you on.